And we are up and running. How are you this morning, Barrett?
I'm doing really well, Chris. How are you doing?
Great. I got my mouth full of jelly beans. So, feeling very much like Ronald Reagan this morning, his jelly bean fetish.
That is true. Didn't he have like one color he didn't like or something, so it had to be picked out of his jelly beans? I don't know, something like that.
That could very well be. You know, that jelly bean, Jelly Belly, is right across the border in Wisconsin. So you can go up there and take a tour of the plant. But Ronald refused to eat any other jelly beans. It was Jelly Belly, and that was it. End of discussion.
Go, a man who knows what he likes. Just like the next president, who, when George H.W. Bush became president, he said, "I don't have to eat broccoli anymore. I'm the president."
That's true. And broccoli farms all across the country imploded.
I'm sure they did, actually.
There was a lot of land that went up for sale cheap as a result of that one committed statement. And that's really what it is commitment. If you believe in what you're saying, then you will see it become what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're watching that, I think, more and more on a global level now. I think things are speeding up because people are beginning to really recognize what's going on.
It's true. I've always felt a little committed myself. Um, in the sense, I mean, literally, I have gone through mental health issues and stayed in mental health facilities. So I make that joke, but I also say it with heart that, wherever we are on our path, there's different kinds of commitment. There's commitment where we're committed to growing and finding a path of love, and there's a commitment we can also have to the ego. We can have a commitment to fear. We can have a commitment to pain. We can have a commitment to suffering. And I think the topic that we have for today sort of fits in with this, which it's number 25 in the manual for teachers, and it's "Are psychic powers desirable?" And I think another commitment that we can have is a commitment to our spiritual growth, commitment to our intuitive unfolding. I've led classes in the past on developing your psychic abilities with other teachers, and I think that this is an aspect of us that is normal, and we think it's not normal. We use words like supernatural or paranormal to basically say this is not normal. But what we start to get is that it really is just a natural part of who we are. And I think the section that Jesus shares with us is basically letting us know, if it happens and you start to tune into some of these gifts in yourself, that's great. They're not the end of the journey. The end of the journey is complete peace and love. And you can enjoy these gifts as long as you use them with compassion and with love, and they don't become the focus. They just become a part of the path.
That's very true. And, one of the things that we're always battling is the presence of the ego, because the ego has its boundaries and barriers and likes to build walls. And we imagine our private thoughts are something that we want to keep secret and not share. But in reality, as we start to recognize more and more that there is only one consciousness here, then all of those veiled thoughts start to become so irrelevant, because we realize that we're thinking into each other and it's all one process that is occurring. And that really is how a lot of the psychic powers work, is there are some people who just claim that oneness rather than being impeded by the idea of separation. And when we are in a state of single-mindedness, there are no secrets, there are no fears, there are no hidden regions, And most importantly, there is nothing that can become an issue for us because we recognize our invulnerability within that oneness.
Yeah. And in that invulnerability, then, whether we have a specific psychic power or not, there's no fear around this. I read a little bit of this section. Certainly, there are many psychic powers that are clearly in line with this course. Communication is not limited to the small range of channels the world recognizes. So here, Jesus is basically telling us, everything you think you know is not all there is to know. There's a lot more than kind of our standard way of living. If communication were limited, there would be little point in trying to teach salvation. It would be impossible to do so. So this speaks right to what you were just saying, Chris, that in that infinite connection, there are no real barriers. And I think that's really how all of these psychic abilities are possible, is that the barriers in the mind start to soften. They start to release. You start to realize that there's not your mind and my mind and someone else's mind. There is only one mind. And in that oneness, there really is nothing that's hidden, nothing that needs to be hidden. And there's also nothing to be shameful about. One of my favorite books is Gary Renard's Disappearance of the Universe. And as Gary was getting that his teachers really knew everything about him, he was kind of freaked out. But they really reassured him that they didn't judge him and that there was nothing to fear. And that's the attitude we start to have as we open up into these truths, is that there really is no true cause for shame. And if we can learn that lesson and learn it completely, then we don't need to learn anything else.
Yeah, it's kind of like a ping pong ball, because it goes in 2 or 3 different directions at once, it seems. Because number one, since the illusion, the dream life that we are living, this existence, is not real, that affords us the ability to step out of judgment and condemnation of ourselves and others. And so all of the horrific things that the dream presents to us are in fact situations that are untrue, they are unreal. And all of the people, all of the personalities that populate our dreams are unreal equally. So when somebody feels violated, when somebody feels like they have been attacked and they in turn attack back, all they're doing is attacking themselves and reinforcing that attachment to something that eventually is going to dissolve underneath them. No matter who it is, as far long as we're in this timeline, we're going to run out of a body. We're going to run out of, all the things that are so dear to us. And where will that lead us to? Where will we be left at? And that, of course, is what the course is all about, is preparation to step into that full realization of who we actually are.
Yeah, and they say, all paths lead to Rome. Well, all spiritual paths lead to that experience of oneness. There's no path that won't get you there. But I have to say, the reason that I study A Course in Miracles is because I think that this is one of the faster paths. It's the fastest one that I have found. It gets us through the issues, the resistance, the fears that keep us from that experience of that truth. And we are all resistant to this. If we weren't resistant to the truth, we would be experiencing it right now. We would be in perfect love, in complete bliss, without anything that could shake us from that. And that is the state that the masters, that Jesus, that Buddha achieved at the end of their lives. They got to a place where nothing could really hurt them, because they knew that they weren't just a figure in the dream. They knew that they were the dreamer of the dream. And they knew that there was nothing here that could really affect what they truly were. And that's kind of a high goal for us all to have, but it is something that we can all achieve. And I think we should aim for that, because what else do we have to do?
That's really the true reality. I mean, we can all build our mountains of gold and try to sit on them and maintain our little fiefdom, but in reality, it all crumbles and becomes the dust that it was um, created from, the dust of the earth.
Hmm.
And one of the things that psychic powers. I know I do a lot of readings with people, and um, people are often blown away by the fact that I pick up on a lot of experiences that they're currently dealing with, and then in that area of giving them a sense of where their life is headed. I often get people who come back 2 weeks, 2 months, a year and a half later, and they validate what I told them. And they asked me how I knew. And of course, this whole timeline is already over. We're just experiencing a remembrance of a dream.
Hmm.
So psychics are either consciously or unconsciously just tapping into the timeline and jumping forward or jumping backwards and being able to see what the circumstances were. But within this, it is always a series of changing your mind that changes the outcome and the circumstances. So I have had people come back and tell me that they had, expected this or that or one thing or another that I had predicted, and it didn't come true. And I explained to them, well, that was because you changed your mind. If I gave you the imagery of 6 months from now, you're going to be, destitute sitting in the park, something inside you clicked and you decided, no, I don't want that. So that's why we're reviewing the dream, is to correct all of the wrong responses that we made to life as we were dreaming it. And eventually we will be able to resolve this entire outcome for something that is truly not only just spiritual, but transcendental.
Yeah, it's true. In a sense, we spiritually mature. And as Jesus says, as you grow up, you put away childish things. So, what he's really talking about is our attachment to the body, our attachment to form, our attachment to these piles of gold, these fiefdoms, as you so beautifully said. We realize that they don't really give us what we want. As Jesus said in the Bible, don't, set your house upon the sands. Put it on something solid and firm, on the rock. And the rock is that spirit. The rock is truth. The rock is love. Because only what is unchangeable can be consistent. What in the world is unchangeable? Nothing in the world of time and space is unchangeable or invulnerable. But what you are is invulnerable and unchangeable. And that's why this whole course is a course on identity correction. We're correcting the identity we believe we have. We're stepping into the identity that is our truth, as opposed to the one that we have believed was true.
Yeah, and we really are able to step out of our limitations very literally, in that right now, you're inhabiting a body and you think, well, this is my hand and this is where I cease to be. But one of the early precursors of Course in Miracles was Mary Baker Eddy's work, and Science and Health with a Key to the Scripture, which is now identified as Christian Science. And Mary Baker Eddy was a very brilliant vehicle for spirit. And she made a beautiful statement. She said, there will come a time when man will cease to look up at the stars and begin to look out upon the stars. And that gives us a kind of a vague image of who we really are and the magnitude of our existence, and how we are not this corporeal being that starts at the tip of your toes and ends at the crown of your head. We are so much more. We are infinite in nature, and we can see all of the universe literally in, within ourselves. I mean, that is how expansive and how perfect and how um, uninterrupted our existence is.
Yeah, it's true. We have really no idea until we start to peel away these false layers of what lies underneath it. It's a little as though we were some precious fruit, and we thought we were the skin, just sort of like the skin of an orange. But as we peel the skin back, instead of like a fruit, there's just light. There's endless love and joy that just comes pouring out. And we're looking at the skin of this orange thinking, oh man, it's bumpy. Oh, there's a bruise there. Oh, look at all these problems we have. And um, it's like we can't even imagine what is inside of it until we actually peel back the layers. And that's what our forgiveness work is. And I think that's how psychic powers can be useful. In the readings that you do, Chris, and in the healing work that I do, we both really tap into these intuitive messages. When we're aligned with love, when we're choosing peace and joy in our lives, then we become that vehicle for truth. And we allow the message of peace and kindness to come through. And we can even be talking about challenging or hard things, but doing so from a perspective of unattachment, doing so from a perspective of seeing that they are not the truth of what the client that we're working with is, and they're not the truth of what we are. So, on our both of our work, we touch on these sensitive topics, but we're using them to move through them, as opposed to using them to reinforce them. And I think that's a key distinction in this kind of healing work. Oh, your mic's still on.
Yeah,
Oh.
my mic was muted in fear. I was living in fear of the evil telephone ringing. But yeah, and the thing that I really find exciting and liberating is in the fourth paragraph, or actually the end of the third paragraph, the statement, God gives no special favors and no one has any powers and are not available to everyone. And so that really levels the field. In other words, you and I are not doing anything unique. It is an opportunity for self-discovery, for people to embrace their own intuitive gifts and their own abilities, to step out of that limitation of just the mundane man struggling to survive in a very violent and terrifying universe that we have created.
Yeah, and this section does speak so nicely to this idea that we can kind of get hooked on being psychic or having these abilities too. So Jesus says, even those who no longer value the material things of the world may still be deceived by psychic powers. As investment has been withdrawn from the world's material gifts, the ego has been seriously threatened. It may still be strong enough to rally under this new temptation to win back strength by guile. So really what he's describing here is spiritual specialness and making ourselves kind of different or better or important because of a gift that we have. And as you were just saying, Chris, this doesn't really set us apart. I think when we realize that everyone has these gifts, they're just mostly covered in a lot of people. It really helps us to not have a hierarchy around these things, to realize that even if our experiences are different in time, or it looks like you and I have ways to tune in that some other people don't, that over this expanse of time, everyone has these abilities. And Yeah, I don't know. It really takes away any sort of uniqueness or importance. But we can still, as he says a little further on, he says, any ability that anyone develops has the potentiality for good. To this, there is no exception. And the more unusual and unexpected the power, the greater its potential usefulness. Salvation has need of all abilities, for what the world would destroy, the Holy Spirit would restore. So he's really helping us to see that if we use whatever gifts we have, psychic or otherwise, in the service of love, then that's really all that matters. And we can let our lives be like a love letter to God, and just try to step out of our small s self and let that joy within us shine forth into the world. I think there's really no greater purpose for our time here than that.
Yeah, there is, in the most literal sense, uh, nothing that has any value to us other than being an agent of love and forgiveness. That is the whole point of our existence, to live in a state of knowing that none of this is real and helping wake up our brothers and sisters as we continue to look toward that ultimate dawn of, our finally completely surrendering our resistance to the truth.
Hallelujah.
That's a good song.
It is a good song. We'll have to get the rights and play it as our intro to our talks, or outro.
Yes, that would be nice to have Leonard Cohen show up on one of our discussions. That would be very celestial, although I doubt if he would give a lot of consideration to that, but who knows?
Stranger things have happened.
Well, Barrett, it has been a delightful discussion this morning, and we are advancing into the warmth of spring now. So I encourage people to get out and commune with nature, because by recognizing our oneness with everything around us, it helps us to accelerate our spiritual journey and to finally transcend all of our limitations that we have embraced in this material life.
Beautifully said, and I think that's a great note for us to end on. Yeah, just to kind of shout out to anyone who might be seeing this today, I am doing some past life healing workshops tonight at Yoga Now in Chicago. It's Thursday, the 14th of April, and the next week, 21st, on Thursday at Sun Gates Center in Wheeling. So come on out and join us for the fun.
Right, and I will plug an event I've got going on too down here in Alsip at Transformation. I'll be teaching a class on astrology, and the way that we're developing that class is that I will do a chart for each individual who attends the class, and we'll learn how to read our own chart, and that is the first step in learning what the core of astrology actually is. So good weekend for everybody. Get out and connect with Barrett and myself, and we'll be able to share some of these deeper thoughts that both of us sit around pondering all the time.
This has been really great, Chris. So I hope you have a great time enjoying nature yourself, and look forward to connecting with you next week.
Absolutely. Talk to you in a few days here.